How's it going, Fireside Yankee fans? Welcome back to another episode. Today we got myself, Alex, and a new host today, Ryan, obviously, doing his own thing. A little busy today, but Dylan Backer filling in for us. We're going to be talking about Josh Donaldson, Nestor Cortez's performance yesterday for spring training performance, coming back from the hamstring injury, and Giancarlo Stanton heating up ahead of the regular season. This is definitely an exciting time for the Yankees. Of course, 10 days left about until opening day. You know, the Yankees have not been winning a lot of spring training games, but ultimately, we're seeing a lot of where our weaknesses lie. We're seeing some starting pitching performances. We're seeing some down performances, some up ones. Clark Schmidt was tremendous the other day, 7 Ks over 5 scoreless innings. And Garrett Cole's kind of had an up and down. And then, Luis Severino, in addition to that, has also been a little bit all over the place. But this is kind of the process of ironing out a lot of deficiencies and shaking off a lot of the rust during games that don't actually matter. So hopefully these guys will start to ramp up a little bit, show some more positive performances. Today's game is not televised, but Garrett Cole will be on the mound. So if any relevant information pops up, we got you guys covered as always. But today, we can start off talking about Josh Donaldson, Dylan. But before we do so, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. We're going to talk about Donaldson. So, he's going to end up probably being the starting third baseman, even though a lot of people probably would say he shouldn't be because, he's not exactly the same hitter as he was back when he was an MVP. But, he's the way I see it, he's still a plus defender, which is why I think he's still going to end up getting ample playing time. But I understand at the same time he shouldn't be seeing as many at-bats because, he doesn't have that same plate vision he did back when he was an MVP. He tends to take a lot more strikes. He tends to be late on fastballs. He can't really catch up to curveballs. His timing is just off. It happens when you get older as a baseball player. It just happens. But the Yankees kind of seem like they treat him like he's still like they know he's still a power threat, which, he's capable of doing so, yes. But, I mean, if all we saw last year was just, a desolate spot in the lineup with him. He wasn't really, the power numbers weren't there. The average was not there. He wasn't driving in runs. He was striking out a lot. So, I mean, it was an all-around just down year at the plate. And, I mean, to be honest, I can't really say I expect a massive turnaround out of him. So far in spring training, we haven't seen a whole lot out of him. I mean, I think he only has 25 at bats, but he's only hitting 200. He hit a home run, but I mean, that's about it. He hasn't really done much else otherwise. He's made some cool plays with the glove, which, back to my point before, he's still a plus defender, but, if he's going to be someone that we want in the middle of the lineup, he needs to actually turn it up a notch because the production he's providing right now, and what he did last year, that's unacceptable for a fifth spot in the lineup, quite frankly, especially for a team that is trying to bid for a playoff spot and a World Series spot as well. You can't have a guy like that is supposed to be a massive power threat and then not doing much in the heart of the lineup. We have guys like Judge, Stanton, Rizzo, these big boppers that are right at the top of the order that are, that get on base, that hit home runs, that drive guys in. But then after that, you hit like Donaldson, and you on paper, that's like, oh, wow, it's Josh Donaldson. Josh Donaldson's this big power hitter. You watch out. But until you actually see what he's doing, it's not much, right? So we need to see more out of him for sure this season. I'm hoping that we could get a little bit of a turnaround. Do I expect him to be anywhere near what he was even just 2 years ago when he hit close to 30 home runs? No, I don't. I don't expect that at all. I would be more content with even a 250, almost 20 home run season. I'll be content with that. Doesn't mean I'll be happy with that, but I'll be content with it because 220 and 12 home runs, which is what he had last year, that's just unacceptable. To be quite honest with you, that's unacceptable. And, there's a reason why we have DJ LeMahieu, who's, he's going to be the utility guy probably to at least start the year because we have a bit of an infield logjam. But I do think he deserves a lot more playing time at third base just to get his bat in the lineup more, because you want to get Gleyber Torres in the lineup right now at the moment because, he's still a productive hitter. I know if you look at Gleyber Torres' numbers, for example, he had on paper, it looks like he had a not-so-great year, but really he had a pretty solid year and a really bad August. If you take away August, he had an all-star type season. So Gleyber needs to get in the lineup, obviously. So to do that, to get DJ and Gleyber in the lineup, you got to play DJ at third more, obviously, right? And that would probably take at-bats away from Donaldson. And from a good standpoint here, that would make the most sense because, you would get your best lineup out there each night or most nights, by doing so because, you're going to DH Stanton, you're going to have LeMahieu at there. And LeMahieu is a pretty good defender as well. I know I mentioned Donaldson's a plus defender, but so is LeMahieu. LeMahieu has played pretty much in every spot in the infield and has really excelled in all of them. So he's done really well in those spots. So I fully trust LeMahieu at third base, and I trust his bat way more than Donaldson's, quite frankly, because even though LeMahieu's power numbers aren't nearly as identical, and even though LeMahieu's had injury problems the past year, and that may have affected his timing a little bit. He's still a productive baseball player. He still gets on base. He still drives in runs when he needs to. He makes contact. That's a big thing to me. He makes contact. With Donaldson, his vision kind of is like this small, because it's kind of like if it's not where he's expecting it, he's not gonna make contact. And honestly, halftime, I don't know what Donaldson is expecting at the plate, to be quite honest, because it seems like he lays off a good pitch and then will swing at a bad pitch. So I don't really know what he's seeing at the plate. It could just be, he's getting older, his vision's going down, his timing's going down. It happens as a baseball player, it happens. And, that's part of a career decline. And obviously Donaldson is in the midst of that. But, bottom line, I think me and a lot of other Yankee fans can agree that LeMahieu needs to get the majority of the reps at third base. But realistically speaking, we're still going to end up seeing Donaldson a lot this season, just because he's on the roster and the Yankees are paying him close to $25 million. So he's going to be getting playing time just for those reasons alone. And Boone will probably value him as a defender, because I know Boone loves to value defense. So Boone will see that. He'll value the defense, and he'll use that as the reason why Donaldson's getting playing time. So realistically speaking, like we said, we're going to see a lot of Donaldson anyway, so we have to just hope for a somewhat of a productive season at the plate with him. I can't expect it to be, like I said, any MVP number or anything like he was in 2021. I can't expect that. I just can't. But I should be able to expect better than last year. Last year was easily the worst season of his career. And I don't think Donaldson would even want to come off of that and come off on the wrong foot and even do worse this upcoming season. So, I just hope we see more out of him. That's really the key right there. That's what I just want to see. But I definitely think LeMahieu will get the reps at third. I think he deserves the reps at third, because if you want to get your best lineup out there, your best lineup starts with LeMahieu at third and not Donaldson at third. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately Donaldson is not a long-term solution here, right? He's being paid $25 million in salary, and the only reason he's starting is because the Yankees can't stomach the fact that he's making so much, and they can't put him on the bench because of that. There are better options. DJ LeMahieu should be starting on the hot corner. Like, it's objectively true. You want to get him in the lineup every single day, but at the same time, you can look at the perspective of you also want to mitigate fatigue when it comes to Donaldson, or rather DJ LeMahieu, making sure he's healthy for the longevity of the season. Otherwise, you're going to head into the postseason without one of your best players and arguably your best leadoff hitter. When you're looking at guys like Volpe, if he gets pulled up, I imagine he's going to be leading off. I imagine he's going to fill that number one spot. And then you have DJ LeMahieu, who can be the fifth hitter, the sixth hitter, and that really strengthens the top half of your batting order tremendously, because Volpe's, hit tools are tremendous. We've seen the contact abilities, we've seen the power, we've seen the athleticism, the base running. He's capable of it all. And hitting with runners in scoring position, obviously his spring numbers are fantastic. But when it comes to Josh Donaldson, I have no faith in the guy, right? Like you said, he's hitting 200 with a 31% on base rate this spring. He has 5 hits and a homer over 25 at-bats. His strikeouts are bad. Like, he just swings at anything, and a lot of these pitches are way outside the zone. He's just whiffing at him. He's just throwing the bat at it and seeing if it hits. And this is not the same Donaldson we used to know. I don't know if he has cataracts or something, but the guy can't even see anymore. It seems like he just really does not have that same quality that he once did. And obviously age takes its toll. He's 37 years old. He's going to be 38 this year. So obviously, Father Time catches up. It certainly impacts your game. But his numbers, even if he hit his career averages, and he's not even going to get close to that, his career averages are really actually just fantastic. He has 265 with a 36% on base rate as a career average. His steamer projections have him hitting 227 with a 32% on base rate and 13 homers this year across 91 games. I think the Yankees probably start to ease him out. There's also a pretty good argument to make that maybe, and I want to get your take on this, that Donaldson should not be playing, because if you're going to pull up Volpe, that means that the narrative right now is that if you're going to call up Volpe, you're going to have to trade or move, Gleyber Torres somewhere else, whether it's moving to another team, whether it's him playing DH if Stanton's in the outfield. And the reality is simple. Like the best case scenario would be Volpe at shortstop, in my opinion. Volpe at shortstop, Peraza at third base, and then Gleyber Torres at second base. You have a very young, a very high, talented, up-and-coming unit that has so much untapped potential. I know Peraza is not really accustomed to playing on the hot corner, but he's got the arm talent. He certainly has the range, and he certainly has the talent as a Gold Glove floor-level player defensively. So I'd be willing to give him more reps there. I don't know why the Yankees weren't giving him reps there, because I think that would have been a good alternative for them. That way, because right now it's in my head, DJ LeMahieu's the rover, right? Anthony Rizzo has a chronic back issue. He's going to have to be playing some first base. He's going to have to be filling in to mitigate fatigue at second base, at third base, whatever it might be. That's his role. He's not going to be an everyday starter, and I think we've kind of come to that conclusion. But I think the best case scenario was like, if you have to choose between Donaldson starting and Gleyber Torres starting every day, it's an easy decision. It's Gleyber Torres, and it's every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. So if you're going to take a more progressive approach here and a little bit more of a, solution approach, not instead of like a stopgap like Donaldson is with this massive salary, you should have been giving Peraza or Volpe opportunities at third base to see if they're capable and comfortable there. Maybe that's why Oswaldo Cabrera's been playing there for what it's worth. Maybe Cabrera ends up playing a lot of third base, and you have Peraza at shortstop, and then Volpe plays second, and Gleyber Torres ends up being traded. Maybe that's their future infield. Maybe that's what they have in mind. But I really feel as though Volpe and Peraza should have been getting more reps at third base this spring. What do you think about that? What do you think about those young guys? Like if you have to choose between Donaldson and Gleyber Torres, I imagine Torres should be the everyday starter. I know he has a lot of value right now, but he can help this team win a championship. I think that he is a much better player than Donaldson is at this point in his career.
No, yeah, I don't disagree. Peraza definitely should have gotten some reps at third base because, if they're going to keep him, you might as well see what he can do because, like you've mentioned, once Volpe comes up, they're going to have tough decisions to make about some of our infield guys, more specifically Gleyber Torres because he's the one with the most value at the moment. They're going to have to move basically one of Peraza or Gleyber, right? Because you can't have 5 infielders. You can't. So they're going to have to do something about one of those guys. So for what it's worth, if you're going to stick with Peraza, you might as well try him at third base. See what you can get out of him. They've been trying Anthony Volpe at second base for what it's worth to see what they can get out of him. You might as well do the same with Peraza because if you're going to keep him and you want him in the lineup and you want to see what you have out of this big prospect that you've been having, see what you can get out of him at third base because that's clearly an issue right now. We have a third base issue. Like you said, LeMahieu's going to be the utility guy. That's just how it is. He'll probably get the majority of his reps at third base. That's where I'd imagine he'll get the majority of his reps. But he'll also see plenty of time at first base, at second base to mitigate fatigue and to also help out with injuries and stuff like that. So he'll be there for those. But I do think Peraza should get more time, more reps at third. Cabrera's been playing third, like you mentioned. Oswaldo Cabrera can basically play anywhere. That's the beauty of him. He can pretty much just play anywhere. So you have basically 2 utility guys on the team, LeMahieu and Cabrera. LeMahieu is more the infield utility, but Cabrera is the all-around utility, and that's a good luxury to have. But at the end of the day, you do want to have consistency because if you're moving guys all around the infield, there's no consistency. That will affect the defense, and it could honestly affect their mental as a hitter too. Gleyber, I think we've seen it too. Gleyber Torres, when he was at shortstop, he just looked a lot more uncomfortable. They made him the everyday shortstop once Didi Gregorius left, and he hadn't looked the same, right? He wasn't hitting the ball nearly as good. His offense went down. Then they move him back to second base. He looks better in the field, 1, and then 2, his hitting seemed to come back, right? It's a confidence thing. It's just like that with some players. And, so if you want to stay relatively consistent in the field, you got to be able to do that. And to your point, I do think Volpe would be the everyday shortstop should he come up here. I think he personally should be up here on opening day. I think at this point we've seen more than enough of what Volpe can provide to the team that badly has a shortstop issue right now, so I think he's the go-to option for that. So therefore, you got something to do with Peraza. And I think trying him out at third base would be something because, we have the issue with Donaldson. We just can't play Donaldson every day. We just can't. As much as, you wish that he was still the good power threat that we got him for, he's just not anymore. That's just a fact. He is not that guy anymore. He's getting old. Timing is not there. That just happens as a ball player. And not every ball player can stay superhuman for forever. So It just happens that way, and sometimes you have to move on and make certain decisions and go younger to get, fresher legs out there, because fresher legs can help you win championships. We look at, like, when we brought up Judge, for example. A-Rod had retired, and that's when we brought up Judge. And 2017, for example, we were expected to not be a great team because everyone on the team was young. But all these fresh legs stepped up. Judge almost had an MVP season, end up making the ALCS out of nowhere. I mean, I don't think anybody entering the 2017 season thought the Yankees were going to get that far, So we've shown that we can, develop these prospects really well. I think, Aaron Judge is a good example. Like I said, Gary Sanchez is a good example. I know Gary Sanchez didn't pan out, but he was good for a few years. He had a couple All-Star appearances. So, he did have a successful Yankee tenure, even though it didn't pan out, even though it didn't finish out properly. So that's why I have faith in, like, Volpe and Peraza, because we've shown to be able to, to develop these guys really well. And, I think you got to try to get the best of them right now while they're still here and while they're still while they're still playing as well as they're playing right now. You don't want to slow them down. You don't want to give them less playing time because you want to stick to the vets. No, I think you need to transition a little bit to some of the younger guys. I think that'll be beneficial, because right now we have that shortstop problem. You don't want to play IKF there. I think at this point we've kind of accepted that IKF is either going to get traded or just be off the bench. I don't think he's going to start. I think everyone kind of knows that by now. So it's pretty much a race between Peraza or Volpe, right? If Volpe gets the job, you start to wonder, well, what's going to happen with Peraza? Because, like I said, LeMahieu will probably get a lot of reps at third. You got to get LeMahieu in the lineup somehow. You got to get Glaber in the lineup somehow. If Rizzo's healthy, you got to get him in the lineup too. You have a bit of a logjam. So tough decisions will have to be made. And I think those tough decisions are going to be focused around Glaber Torres. It may be unfortunate if he ends up, being traded, because, I do think he's a valuable second baseman. I don't think he's necessarily a bad second baseman. Do I think that he's replaceable? He could be, because we're considering these prospects we have, we maybe we'll be better off playing, say, Volpe at second and Peraza at short for what it's worth in the long term. Maybe that'll be the solution. Maybe it won't be the solution. Quite frankly, I don't know. But bottom line, there is going to have to be decisions to be made, because quite simply, you can't run five infielders. Look at last year. Last season, Glaber Torres wasn't even in the opening day lineup, if I'm not mistaken, and then he ended up having a decent season. So, his role has been kind of undefined for quite a while now. I think this year it's still even more undefined with these prospects coming. So they got to do something about that. They can't just keep Glaber on this team just for him to not play. That's not fair to Glaber, and I don't think that's really what you should be doing with a guy who has value. When he has value, I think you got to take advantage of that and try to get, use them as trade pieces for what you actually need. Right now we're down 2 pitchers. Maybe you could go get a pitcher, or, maybe you can go get a bullpen arm. You can never have too many bullpen arms. You know what I mean? So things like that. I think they just need to they need to really consider what they're doing here. And I do think, like, they got to really take a look at what they're doing, because, we're only like 2 weeks away from opening day. We're not that far away. They got decisions to make, like, now, and I think, like, they tried IKF in center field the other day. I really don't know why they tried that. That was kind of an interesting decision, because, we already have a lot of outfielders, and with Cabrera as a utility guy, I can't imagine IKF is playing center field for the Yankees this year. I just can't see that. Honestly, I can't see IKF suiting up for the Yankees this season, but who knows? Maybe he'll still be on the team on opening day, and we'll just have to deal with that. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. Just some tough decisions to make.
Yeah, let's take a look at a player that definitely more of a influence on this team and a lot less of a logjam going on. But again, a very impactful one in Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton's coming off what most would say is a down year. Probably one of the worst statistical careers of his entire career. But I'll say this: the first half of the year, he was insane. He was hitting home runs at a ridiculous pace. He was on pace for one of his best seasons, I think. And then it all just kind of started to crumble down with the injuries, and that's kind of been the storyline for him the last couple seasons. He ended up hitting 211 with a 297 OBP, 115 WRC plus, his lowest in his entire career. So, he still hit 31 homers and 78 RBIs to go with those numbers, which is pretty insane. But we know he can be a lot better than that, and we know that he wants to play defensively. He feels better when he's playing defense and offense. So it definitely is a situation where Stanton, like, going into the season, he is heating up at the perfect time. He's actually elevated his numbers this spring pretty significantly. Over 25 at bats in 280 with a 333 OBP, 7 hits and 3 RBIs with a 693 OPS. So obviously OPS pretty low, but he's starting to heat up. He's getting a lot better, and that's kind of what you want to see out of Stanton. He's the type of guy that just needs consistent reps. When he gets injured and he misses a couple days, a couple weeks, and then he comes back, he starts slow, and then he gets injured again. Then it's kind of this over and over again, the same exact thing. It really disrupts his flow. But when he is getting consistent at bats on a daily basis, when he's really in flow and is hitting his flow and his groove, this is a player who is one of the best hitters on the Yankees, and he's one of the best hitters in baseball. So the more consistency he has, the better he's going to perform, and the more electric he's going to be with the bat in his hands. And obviously, we'd love to see him get a little bit more defense reps as well. And that really just boils down to, can they trust him in the health department? He's had the calf injury that's really held him back at times. So right now, Stanton looks really good. He's kind of taking big steps forward right now, and that's exactly what we want to see ahead of opening day, just 10 days away. So we're hyped about it. But Dylan, what are your thoughts on Stanton? How many games do you think he can really play this year with the injuries? And how do you feel about him heating up right now and the importance of him in this Yankee lineup?
Right. So I mean, it is definitely encouraging to see him heat up right now because he had just an awful slump to start the spring. He wasn't really hitting much, but now he's starting to heat up. He's a guy that, this is the way I see it. Even when he's slumping, you still feel his presence in the lineup because this is Giancarlo Stanton after all. He's proven to be, to go on runs where he just hits everything out. Everything's a laser. He can be a bit of a streaky player, yes. I think, by now we kind of know that, and that's a bit unfortunate, but when he heats up, he's almost impossible to get out. We saw that in the 2020 playoffs. He was just on a heater. You could not get that guy out. That's what I love seeing. Streaks like that, and even right now, he's not hitting home runs, but he's getting on base. That's also encouraging. He was doing that quite a bit at the start of last season, which got him to the All-Star game. Then the injuries came, and the discipline was just not there, and the contact was just not there. It's unfortunate to see. It kind of just when he's slumping, that it does hurt. Even like I said, you still feel his presence even when he's slumping, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't hurt us. If he's slumping, that's it obviously is going to hurt us because that's this guy we need in the heart of the order. This is our guy that after Judge, you see him and it's these are the big bad guys. These are the big guys. These are the ones that are going to hit everything. These are the ones you got to pitch around. These are the ones you got to watch out for. And when Stanton's not disciplined enough, then that's a problem because pitchers will feel a little more confident against him. When he comes up to the plate and he's red hot, pitchers don't know what to do against him, because when he's feeling it at the plate, he's also more disciplined. He takes closer pitches. He doesn't swing at bad pitches. He swings at the good pitches and he doesn't just hit the good pitches. He hits absolute rockets. Even his singles are hit 120 miles an hour. That's just pure raw power. So that's just show right there how much of an impact he really is. He's a bit of an X factor in this lineup because if he's coming into the season red hot, then we could get off to a really good start in the season because he's someone that with the injuries right now to Bader and I think Trevino also had an injury. Our bats are taking a bit of a hit. We still have Judge, we still have Rizzo, we still have those guys, yes, but we need to have the insurance that we need, and that's what Stanton is. If Stanton can be red hot along with these other guys, we still have a gauntlet of a lineup, even with some of the injuries we've been forced to swallow with this, but. I'm definitely encouraged by what he's been doing lately. I love the way how he can hit the ball to the opposite field. I think that's a very key component of his game, and I think that's important because, most power hitters like him, you would imagine be a dead pull hitter. They're only hitting to one side of the field. I know the shift is gone now, but when the shift was around, of course, that was affecting guys pretty badly. I think Joey Gallo was a pretty good example of that, but I'm not saying Giancarlo Stanton is Joey Gallo, of course not, but, at the end of the day, it's important that Stanton can find ways to hit to each part of the field because, defenses can't really align against that. If he's hitting rockets to right field, how are you going to adjust to that? Because he could hit a rocket to left as well. And he does it with his short, compact swing. I mean, everything just jumps off the bat with him. So, it's important that he maintains his discipline. He maintains his good vision at the plate. He doesn't chase. That's a big thing. He needs to cut down the chasing a little bit. I think he did a bit of that last season in the first half. And then, the injuries came and he came back and he kind of went back to that. You don't want to do that again. You want to stay level in the zone. You want to find your good pitch and you want to lay off the waste pitches that they're being thrown at you because pitchers know that Stanton's a bit of a hacker at the plate. So pitchers are going to throw those waste pitches on 2 strikes because they know he's going to have the urge to swing at it. Even at times when Stanton doesn't swing at it, you see him like ready to load up to swing. You see him like he's fighting the urge, And sometimes as a pure hitter, you want to just hit the ball, right? But you also got to stay disciplined at the same time. I know Stanton's not exactly a good runner, but even walks are beneficial because anything is better than like a strikeout or a pop out or a ground out. Anything is better than that, And I know you have Stanton in the lineup specifically for power, but it's important if he can get on base too because it can allow the other guys, even the simple things, just getting base hits, driving in runs, moving the chains, things simple as that. That's the little things because even if you don't score runs, let's say off that, you're wearing out pitchers, you're giving your other hitters a better chance to get big hits late in games, things like that go a long way. It's an intricate way of baseball, but it just works that way. So I think Stanton's a key piece to kind of reinforcing that lineup a little bit and kind of like building that foundation of like a big powerhouse lineup. If he's on, then it's a tough lineup up and down for pitchers to face. They're gonna see LeMahieu if he's hitting the ball well. Judge is Judge. Rizzo's got a bunch of pop, of course, and then Stanton if he's red hot. That's a scary lineup to go against. I would not want to go against that lineup if they're all playing at their best. I would absolutely not want to play against that. And that makes a difference right here. He makes that X factor how feared should the Yankees lineup be? Because if he's not hitting the ball well, then you kind of look at the lineup and you go, oh, Judge is there, Rizzo's cool, LeMahieu's pretty cool, but then you look at the rest and you're kind of just like, whatever, but if Stanton's going, that kind of makes a big difference. It goes from a difference of 3, top heavy hitters in the lineup to now you have 4, so now about half your lineup is a powerhouse lineup, which is a good thing. And, you can get the good compact guys in the bottom, like, Bader when he's healthy, Cabrera, and, of course, Volpe. Volpe gets going too. That's another big thing too. So Stanton definitely makes a big difference in that lineup, and I definitely am encouraged. Like I said, I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing of him of late in spring. I'm hoping he can continue that in the regular season. We see him kind of go in these streaks a little bit where he'll be red hot for a couple weeks, and then for a good month he just can't hit the ball at all. It happens. Players get like that sometimes, but he tends to be very streaky with that. So I'm hoping he can find a little more consistency this year when it comes to making contact, because even if he doesn't hit home runs, he hits the ball very hard. So defenders are not going to be able to make easy plays on Stanton. He's not a good runner, but just because he hits the ball that hard, it's going to be difficult for fielders enough. So just that's the key right there, making contact. If he can continue making contact, then I can expect the power to, of course, come through because it's Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, you got to expect the power, of course. He's got such a great swing. It's such, the ball just jumps off his bat, like I mentioned. So yeah, that's my take on it. He just needs to, find that consistency when making contact.
Yeah, so to wrap up this episode, we'll talk about Nestor Cortez's performance from yesterday. Obviously, first one coming back from the hamstring injury. Nestor Cortez is one of our best pitchers, and we need him because, having Carlos Rodon go down, having Frankie Montas out until August, if not more, you need guys like Nestor to step up. And obviously, first appearance was rocky, expected, pitched 3.1 innings, gave up 3 hits and 5 earned runs, walked 3 batters, had 4 strikeouts, and gave up 2 homers. So not the most efficient performance, but again, Toronto had most of their starters in, and they've been obviously getting work on an everyday basis. So I'm not surprised Cortez, struggled in his first outing, as many of our starters have. Severino was yet to have a really great one, and Cole has been kind of up and down. So, this is definitely something that we expected. A little bit of a rocky start, a little bit of a rusty start, we're shaking off the rust rather. But Nestor Cortez, he is an interesting player nonetheless. I'm really interested to see how he utilizes the pitch clock to his advantage this year, speeding up his release, trying to catch batters off guard. He's going to get really creative with it, and I'm excited to see kind of what he does. He loves to use all the leg movements and kicks and, trying to kind of change up his arm slot, but pairing that with speed and efficiency will be really interesting to see how he can catch some batters off guard and try to get steal some strikes in the process there. But, what are your thoughts on Nestor Cortez, his first performance and, expectations as we get a little bit closer? I imagine he might get one more appearance, but we need to see a little bit better one. But I think this is kind of what we expected, just shaking off the rust.
Right. So, obviously he wasn't great yesterday, but again, it was expected. And if anything, maybe it's actually a good thing that he shook off the rust now, because if he didn't get a spring start, he would have kind of been forced to shake off the rust in a regular season game. I know they might have given him like maybe a minor league camp start, a live batting practice appearance to kind of get his ramp up, but he would have been his first game action would have been in the regular season, and you don't want him shaking off the rust in the regular season. You'd rather the rust get shaken off now in spring training. These games don't matter. They're just here for these guys to warm up and get loose for the season. And Toronto, like you said, Toronto had all their guys playing. Toronto's not an easy lineup by any means, so I can't say it, I can't be too disappointed in it. And it's also spring training. You don't want to look too deep into spring training. Like you said, Luis Severino has not had a good start in spring training. He's kind of been notorious for being pretty bad in spring training, and then he comes to the regular season and he's pretty good. So you don't want to look into that too much. Spring training is kind of the time where pitchers kind of need to experiment, see what they have, what they're able to do right now, what they think they should work on. And I think Nestor had a good learning experience with that. He probably had a good extensive look at the film after his performance yesterday and saw what he should adjust on. He still had 4 strikeouts, so his strikeouts were there. But, of course, you want to limit the long ball. You don't want to give up home runs and stuff like that. That was Garrett Cole's problem last year, and, of course, it did hurt us. But I do have confidence that Nestor will be good again. I don't think Nestor's year last year was necessarily a fluke. I do think he's still a solid pitcher, and I do think he'll have a good year this year. Do I think he'll have a 2.40 ERA again? No, I don't. I think that's a bit of a long shot, especially with the pitch clock now and the shift's gone. More runs are going to be scored. That's just how it'll be. So, his ERA will jump up a little bit, but I do think he'll be an impactful pitcher. I do think he'll still be a good pitcher. I don't think he's going to have like a bad season at all by any means. I'd be kind of shocked if he does, because he showed last year that he can be consistent. That was my big thing. He was very consistent last year. His like worst start would be like a 4-run give up, which in hindsight, that's not terrible. Of course, you don't want to have an outing like that, but he never really had like a stinker. Like, Garrett Cole had a few stinkers, where he just couldn't get anybody out, gave up a bunch of runs. Starts like that happen, of course. And I'm not comparing Cole. I'm only comparing Cole and Nestor here because these are our 2 healthy guys. These are our 2 healthiest guys. We don't have Rodon right now, so we don't really know what we're going to get out of him at the start of the year. We'll find out when he comes back. And Severino, of course, he's been, not great this spring. We all know how polarizing he is in spring compared to the regular season, so you don't want to compare that either. So, Nestor and Cole is kind of the good comparison here because, Cole's obviously a way better pitcher, of course, but Nestor right now is our second best pitcher, so we have to rely on him quite a bit to start the year. He's probably going to get he probably won't get the ball to start in the second game of the season just because of the injury. He'll probably get the start like maybe the 4th or 5th game of the season. He definitely won't start against San Francisco to start the year. I don't expect that. Quite frankly, I don't, and I do think he'll get another spring start. Before spring training wraps up. Spring training wraps up in the next 10 days. He'll definitely get another start. I think maybe even he'll get another start. Maybe he'll get like an extra 2 innings in another game. Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to go too fast on it because you don't want to also rush him, but you also want to make sure he's ready. So you also got to make sure you can get as much as you can out of him because like I said, he is your second best pitcher right now. The rotation is kind of shot right now with Montas being out and Rodon being out. Excuse me. But with those type of things, just like, we need Nestor to be consistent. And I expect him to be consistent again. I don't think you want to look too deep into his spring start yesterday. I don't think you want to look too deep at that at all. Because, in spring training, we've seen star pitchers, Cy Young candidates get absolutely lit up in spring training. And, then they go to the regular season and they're just like how we expect them to be. So I'm not saying Nestor is like the ace, of course, but, he has ace material. He kind of proved to be a consistent type of guy last year. He has a good pitch mix. Like you said, he'll probably utilize the pitch clock to his advantage this year, to be honest, and mess with hitters' timing, which is a good thing for him. But I just hope that, I just hope he can shake off the rust soon. That's my one concern. If he can shake off the rust soon enough, then I'm not worried at all. If he still looks a little rusty in either his next spring outing or like in his first start of the regular season, then maybe I can get worried a little bit. Because then maybe I could be like, okay, is this rust or is this just how he's going to be now? Then you could start to worry about that. But right now is not the time to hit the panic button. It was one start, one spring training start. Bad starts happen. If anything, there were still encouraging things about his start. Like I said, the strikeouts were still there. I don't know how many walks he had, but I don't think he was walking that many guys. It's just the home runs you want to limit. You want to limit the long ball. You don't want to give up runs, things like that. But like a bottom line to wrap up the point, just don't look too deep into his start. He'll be fine. I expect him to be fine. Just got to shake off the rust now and then take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. But guys, I'd love to hear your perspectives below on Josh Donaldson, Giancarlo Stanton, and of course Nestor Cortez. Always happy to have a good conversation in the YouTube comments. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. And hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Enjoy the game today, although it's not televised, but we got you covered on all of our different Fireside Yankees channels. So appreciate that as always. As I said before, like, subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.